Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and I want to talk about how Dungeons and Dragons has become a non-opt-out option, a non-opt-out pattern, modern life pattern, a pattern in modern life you absolutely do not have the right or the privilege to opt out of. Unusual, very, very strong statement. Let me back it up. All right. In my humble opinion, that's the case. All right. So you're like, well, you're saying that people that and I'm sorry, let me clarify. Americans cannot opt out of playing Dungeons and Dragons. And you're like, well, wait, no, Dungeons and Dragons is just a game. Anybody who wants to play it can play it, and anybody who doesn't want to play it can skip it. And I'm saying, no, that's wrong. Let's get into why that is fundamentally wrong. All right, here we go. So why is that wrong? Well, there are now non-opt-out patterns in modern life. I'm going to give you two examples: reading and mobiles. Right? You cannot be an American and go, my choice in life is to not read. The government will literally not allow you to. They're like, nope, you're an American, you have to read. We know you would just like to, kind of try to make your way through with life without reading, but that's illegal. You literally have to go to school and learn to read. This is not an option for you to. This isn't an option. This is simply not an option by any stretch of the imagination, and you have to go to school, right? So, which is, and you have when you're at school, you're going to have to learn to read. It's not an opt out. It's not an opt out, right? Now that one is law. Okay, this next one is not law, but it has functionally been fully delivered. You could say, you know what? I don't use a cell phone. People are like, what? What are you talking about? You don't have a cell phone? And and in the old days, I think people would have been tempted to say, "Oh, you're unhoused, right?" Or "You're unhoused, right?" But that's not even the case now. Many people who are incredibly unfortunate to not have a house and are unhoused, right? Absolutely have a mobile phone. In fact, the majority. I'm, I actually, I'm aware of. I actually, what's the best way to say this? I'm aware of a specific um, support system for unhoused people, and the people who work in that system tell me it's very rare for an unhoused person to not have a mobile phone. They might not have a mobile phone for like 2 weeks, maybe out of a year, maybe a season if they're really unfortunate. Vast majority of the time, unhoused people have mobile phones, right? So if you tell people I don't have a mobile phone, they're like, so you're like a prepper? You're off the grid? You live in the mountains? Like, it's just, and people don't know how to interact with you. They're like, like, what? Like, it's just, there's no normal structure for it, right? If you find somebody who does not have a cell phone, you're kind of like, well, how do you do anything? Like, how do you even, like, life? Like, that doesn't make any sense at all, right? Like, and the reason why is it's just so powerful, right? It's just so powerful. People would be like, well, the cost benefit ratio is so incredible. There's no possibility that anybody would choose to not have a cell phone, right? So it's not an opt-out pattern. So how has Dungeons and Dragons become a non-opt-out pattern? It's a good question. So here's how. It's about literacy. It's exactly like reading. So here's my opinion. If you do not play Dungeons and Dragons, you are completely ignorant of modern art. You don't understand how to process art today, right? And the reason why is Gary Gygax in 1974 set a new form of art, the best form of art that humans had ever created, a hyper-personal narrative that has a dungeon master create the story, and then dragon masters change that story literally by the second, and then both of them are interrupted by fate, right? The moment this came into existence, every novel, every television show, every movie was completely antiquated because they're all hyper non-personal narratives. They were written not for you. Nobody cares what you think about the Marvel movie. Nobody cares what you think about Furiosa. Nobody cares what you think about your favorite television show. Nobody cares about you in those stories. Every single person at the table in a Dungeons and Dragons game is hyper concerned about what you like and do not like in that story, literally to the second, right? And both people have a much more realistic storyline than can be created on for the big screen, the small screen, or the page screen, right? And the reason why is those authors are uninterrupted by fate ever. They get to choose whatever they want, and so we get these outlandish, ridiculous stories that would never happen because it's just what one author chose without interruption, right? And so those stories are very antiquated. They're very soft. They're hyper non-personal. They're really useless compared to the art that is created with Dungeons and Dragons. So now that we have this new form of art, the best form of art that has ever been delivered by human beings, if you don't participate in it, you are incredibly, shockingly, almost fully ignorant of what art is today. You have an idea of what 20th century art is, but you have no idea what 21st century art is, right? You are artistically illiterate, right? You don't understand current, cutting edge, modern art, right? And get this. Now, I don't think we don't have a law yet that says you are required to play Dungeons and Dragons. But the U.S. government a long time ago was like, we're all Americans, man. Everybody got to read, right? I don't think it's going to be that long before the government is like, are we going to allow people to be artistically illiterate? And it's a good question, right? Like, I think the answer is probably no. I don't think we should allow people the option to be artistically illiterate, right? So, a deep subject, 100% my opinion. It's my opinion that if you do not play Dungeons and Dragons today, you are 99% artistically illiterate. You can't understand art in any capacity. Modern art. You cannot understand modern art in any capacity. You can understand old, antiquated art, but modern, hyper now, hyper current, right, hyper personal art, you have no idea how to process it. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion. When you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider subscribing and have a fetch millennium.